The date, April 6th. The day, Friday. The year, 1990. I drove up on a bad vehicle accident involving a tractor trailer and a Pontiac Firebird car. I worked as a surgical tech at Rutherford Hospital at that time. That night, I was on call for emergency surgeries. My first thought when I saw the accident was I would get a call telling me to report to work. We have an emergency.
911, what's your emergency?
The accident occurred at the intersection of Highway 74 bypass and Spindale Shopping Center in Spindale. A car was underneath the trailer and the top of the car was missing. To my surprise, I never received that call, so I assumed that the person or persons in the vehicle died. The next day I learned that that person involved in the wreck did not die and was indeed a friend of mine, Keith Lipsey. Keith broke his neck that night. Since that fateful night, he has rebounded from his injuries, is now the pastor of New Bethel AME Zion Church in Forest City. Reverend Lipsey has agreed to share his journey with us.
Hi, I'm Tracy Fuller, sitting here with Reverend Keith Lipsey. Reverend Lipsey, could you let us know what you remember the night of the accident?
Well, the night of the accident, it was a long day. Matter of fact, it was on a Friday. And we were out hanging out, of course, as young men doing what we do. And on that night, of course, I was foolish enough to be intoxicated and out driving. I had gotten in an argument with a young man in Forest City. And so I went all around trying to find a gun, a handgun, to kind of settle my problems, as most of us would do, which I know now is wrong.
Right.
So from there, I left, went back to Forest City, and on my way there, I got down by McCurry Deck,
Okay.
and I misjudged a red light, and I went through it and had a terrible accident, ended up breaking my neck.
He had a deep gash down in the front of his head, and he had like a metal rod all the way through his forehead, and he was laying straight on a wooden board.
How much pain were you in that night, and what was your mindset at that moment?
To be honest with you, there was no pain that night. It happened so quickly, all of a sudden, so that when it happened, the pain, I didn't have a record of it 1 to 10 or a numeric level 1 to 10. It was just all of a sudden, and all I know is I couldn't see because I had blood that was gushing down in my face, which I thought was rain that night.
And I started praying, and I said, Lord, please don't take my cousin.
So what facility were you treated at, and how long were you in rehab?
I was treated at Spartanburg Regional Medical Center there in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I was there for approximately 3 weeks with a broken neck, 5th and 6th vertebrae were broken. I was real fortunate laying there, learning how to eat, how to walk, and so many other things that we take for granted nowadays. I struggled in getting back to where I needed to be. They had sent me to Greenville Rehabilitation Center. So while I was there, I learned how to kind of use a wheelchair, to use a walker, and to learn how to take baby steps all over again, to begin to take care of myself. Simple things like brushing my teeth, washing my face, learning how to take a quick wash up. It was like being a child all over again.
I mean, that was a long healing process. So he had to stay in the hospital a long time. And I think it was around 4 or 5 months into the hospital, he wanted to come to church.
Was there any doubt in your mind at some point that you thought, I'm never going to get out of this, I'm never going to?
No, ma'am. Even though I wasn't saved, I was a sinner, you may as well say. But I knew that I had talked with God, and I had asked him that if he would allow me to walk again, to be able to use my limbs again, to support my daughter who was on the way, that I would serve him.
Okay, wonderful. When did you think you were rebounded and was back?
To be honest with you, I was kind of like Superman, to be honest. because I was only out of work for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
In 3 months, I wanted to go back. I was employed at the time at Reeves Brothers in Ralston. And 3 months' time, I was trying to get back on my job and do my job, but they wouldn't release me. The doctors wouldn't. So after 6 months, which I thought was pretty speedy, that they allowed me and cleared me to go back to work.
Keith came into St. John with his walker. And it took Keith, I say, approximately 20 to 25 minutes to walk from the back door to the pulpit of St. John. And when he made it to the pulpit of St. John, he held that walker up and told everybody to sing, "We're gonna make it." And as we sung, "We're gonna make it," everybody in the whole sanctuary started singing and crying at the same time. And Keith been going strong ever since.
At what point in your life did you start preaching? In what year? Do you remember the year?
Yes, I was at St. John AME Zion Church in Ralston, North Carolina. It was that of October the 29th of 2000 that I preached my initial discourse.
Okay. Do you remember the topic of your first sermon?
Yes, ma'am. I can't remember the scripture, but I do remember that the title was Blessed and Still Tripping. I think it was taken from Genesis, the 32nd chapter.
Okay. What do you mean by still tripping?
Still blessed and highly favored by the Lord,
Okay.
but then still doing other things of the world and not committing yourself wholeheartedly to the gospel and God's plan.
Okay. So what is your vision for the future?
Well, my vision for the future, are we talking religiously or point blank?
I guess both.
Okay. Well, future, I'm here. I've been appointed here to New Bethel AME Zion Church, African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, Forest City, which is a strong task, I would say, following the footsteps of Reverend Leroy Staley. But the church where it's located is located in a pretty much African American neighborhood. A lot of people have moved away, but I still believe that within there that people still need hope. So with people needing hope, I'm looking at being the community pastor. I'm looking at opening up shelters, supplying food and clothing for our community, but not only our community, but everyone in Rutherford County. So I see New Bethel as being, since it is the largest African American church in Rutherford County,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to growing it tremendously by the help of the Lord and the congregants who serve there.
Okay. If there's one piece of advice you could give anybody, what would it be?
I would say just to always remain steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain. Another scripture that I carry real deep to my heart is, or real close to my heart is, I will lift up my eyes unto the hills which cometh my help. All my help comes from the Lord who made the heaven and the earth. And by me quoting those scriptures, I know without a shadow of a doubt that if anybody out there is depressed or oppressed, or maybe wavering in the faith, if they would just quote those scriptures and meditate on them, they can do anything, because with God, all things are possible.
Amen. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and it was great to have you with us
It was
this evening.
good to be here. Thank you so much.
But don't worry about it.